My name is Maryam Mohammed Ghazali. I'm from Sultanate of Oman. I was graduate from Sultan Qaboos University and a master's degree, especially for food safety. I'm working right now in Al Jawda Food Tech Lab and a food science specialist. The presentation that I'm going to present it is based in my published paper, which is published in 2020. It's about the food hygiene knowledge and practices among food handlers at selected restaurants in Muscat, Government. So let's move to the outline. So I will go through introduction, objectives, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, recommendation, acknowledgement, and the references. Let's start with the introductions. The food safety and outbreak of food poisoning. As we know that nowadays the food poisoning is distributed worldwide, and because of the microorganism that can be available in the food product, and not only the micro, also the chemist. So, for example, in Europe countries, the most common places they got food poisoning is listed from the home because of the lack of knowledge of food handling, and they do not have a knowledge how can deal with the food and how they store the food in a proper way. And 70%, do you imagine that 70% of the populations eat out once a day, and every year a huge number of the people are hospitalized or die throughout of the world. For example, in the United States, the cost of the most common foodborne disease is assessed this kind of $1 yearly. In Denmark, 2014, 15 dead processed because of the listeria. Listeria is a pathogenic bacteria, and it is a poisoning. If you do not cook the food product in a proper way, special of the meat, chicken, immediately they will get food poisoning. For example, in Sharjah municipality, 2016, 1,200 tons. Do you imagine that expired? They check it and they expand and they destroyed it immediately. So what about the relation of food handlings with the food poisoning? For example, in Saudi Arabia, that workers had good knowledge regarding the personal hygiene, food poisoning, and disease and cross-contamination, this is good. That means it will help to handle the food in proper way while dealing with the food product. And then the Malaysia, there was a moderate in knowledge of food handlers regarding to the perimeters, food safety handling, and foodborne diseases. In China, the food handlers had lack of food safety and food knowledge, and majority of responsible did not have the maximum stored time temperature. And as we know that time temperature, if I did like that time temperature, which means is very essential. If we do not focus in time temperatures, that will be a chance the food, the microorganism can be growth. There is a danger zone from 5 to 60 degrees Celsius. Food handlers covered their hand, mouth, and hair while cooking. Italian restaurant total aerobic bacterial count was lower than the standard to log, considering that the hand and food contact surfaces. And in Iowa states the interbacteriacy in the cutting board was higher than the standard, which is that a big concern. So that means a lack of hygiene and lack of knowledge. So the recent news, which is the big concern, in 2021 to 2022, which is the recent one, foodborne illness cost the Australia almost $2 billion. Because of what? Because of the Campylobacter, Listeria monocytogenes, and Salmonella and others microorganisms which concentrate the pathogenic bacteria. The risk factor for Campylobacter, its outcome for the huge number of the cases, for example, 571 cases that because of undercooked chicken. They must cook the chicken in a proper way. Check the temperature in the core. If it is more than 80 degrees, which is in good condition, but it is if lower 80, that mean in bad condition. In Saudi Arabia, that for 5 cases of food poisoning per day across kingdom, the statistic also showed that the total outbreak of foodborne disease were 61. The multi-country outbreak of Salmonella. Salmonella, Campylobacter, E. coli 0157. This is different type of microorganism which is concerned the pathogenic bacteria. Nowadays, they distributed worldwide. It's a big concern, and it caused diarrhea, food poisoning, hospitalized, and more than these symptoms. So illness and death due to the contamination of food and water affect around 10% of the world population and kill about 2.2 million people annually. And in the United States, the best advance in food safety borne remain common in the United States. So the food safety and the hygiene in Oman is a monitoring. There is a monitoring authorities. It's come and handled by Muscat Municipal Food Safety Center and Ministry of Health. Each public authority has own duties and each one contacted each other. For example, as show the figures in the screen, that the food poisonings is in fluctuation, but the highest cases is in 2010, and then it's decreased to 129 in 2012, then it's increased also in 2013. The recent one, there is different type also of foodborne cases in Oman. In 2018, there is many cases, the cholera cases, hepatitis, all these things is come because of the chemical and also a microorganism disease. This one of my published paper, which I presented here, Food Safety Knowledge, it's published under Journal of Food Science. And this is example of what happened that in Spanish, the food handlers and the ministry, the restaurant, for example, that 698 health violations later were given to the restaurant who do not control their handling, and they do not follow the rule in a proper way, and they had many things that led them to punishment and penalized for the violations, and this type of punishment they need to pay more than 200 Riyal Omani. So the main objective of this study is to evaluate the food safety and hygiene knowledge of food handling, hygiene practices in Muscat government through the following specific objective. The first objective is assess the knowledge of food handlers in different classes of restaurant based in the number, and measure the hygiene practice in selected restaurants among a group of the restaurant food handlers and conduct services. So my studies, I do not only focus in the questionnaires. I need to support this kind of questionnaires by practical, because if I did questionnaire only, so I have a doubt. I need to strengthen my studies by two things. So I did questionnaires and I distributed within the food handlers. Second things, I did practice. So the questionnaires I translated to English, Arabic, Urdu, and India. Why? Because the food handlers in the restaurants, some of them, they do not know Arabic, and even English, they have own knowledge. So I select 54 food handlers. The questionnaires have the questions in multiple choice, patient hygiene, food poisoning, food handling, cooking, knowledge in the municipality rules, and food handlers training. So I distributed with these food handlers, as you show on the screen, with the heading, with the proper official questionnaires. By the way, I did not visit the restaurant unless I get any permissions from the municipality, and the inspector must be with me. And this is the lab work. So the questionnaires is done. So we'll go to another methodology, which is lab work. I choose 18 restaurants. I selected 54 food handlers, 54 knives, and 54 chopping board. Then I take a swab from each. then directly I keep it in the call books within 2 hours. If it 2 to 4 hours, direct from the restaurant to the lab to do directly the test. Why? To avoid any cross-contaminations in the samples that I collected. And the second things, to make sure that I did my experiment in a proper way, based in traceability and monitoring. So in the part of microbiology analysis, I use the standard plate count agar and bioreferred bile glucose agar paste in enterobacteriaceae. So I did the spreading method and with the pouring method and for enterobacteriaceae. So for aerobic plate count, I incubate 37 degrees Celsius for 48 hours, and for the enterobacteriaceae, 37 degrees for 24 hours. For the confirmation test, if there is any confirmation test based in enterobacteriaceae pathogenic bacteria, I need to isolate it in the nutrient agar, and I need to incubate it at 37 degrees Celsius for 24 hours. So the result. Based on the questionnaires, that the age of the food handlers, 46% of them are from 31 to 40, and 96% are male. And unfortunately, 57.4 they know Arabic and their knowledge, and low percent they know English. And most of them have a secondary school. The coursing about the hygiene and so on, only 9.2%. The working experience, 58%, more than 5 years experience. And the cooking and meal preparation is only 82.6%. So low percentage of food handlers have a knowledge of good manufacturing practice and HACCP, and therefore they do not know how we can deal with the food product. But nowadays, alhamdulillah, when I published my paper and I distribute this information within the public authority, they got it and they use it as a questionnaire. And alhamdulillah, nowadays, the level of food poisons is reduced. So most of them, they use this type of sanitizer in the restaurant. And if you show that these have different cutting board, because we have a rules that the blue cutting boards for the fish product and the green for the vegetables and fruits. So what is the result show? The result show that the group 1 of the restaurant have a good knowledge compared with the group 2 and group 3. So the group 3 have a lack knowledge in the hygiene, food poisoning, food handling, cooking, and the knowledge of the municipality rules. Based on the lab works, it shows that the group 1 have a good in hygienic practice for both enterobacteriaceae compared with the group 2 and 3, and the group 3 have a lack of hygiene practice during handling of the cutting board and even their hands when we did swab. And the World Health Organization status that more than 2 log is not acceptable. And as we show that there is more than 2 in the group 3 and group 2. For the enterobacteriaceae, the World Health Organization said it should be nothing, which is not detect, whereas in the group 2 and group 3, there is enterobacteriaceae because of their food handlers have a lack of knowledge. So in conclusion, most of food handlers among a group had low education level. Personal hygiene practices need to be approved. Most of food handlers did not attend training courses. Group 1 possess significantly higher level of knowledge, by the way, because they have a knowledge and they have a they are familiar with the good hygiene practice and HACCP, also hazard analysis critical control point. So the recommendation, each restaurant should apply good hygiene practices, food safety rules and education programs should be handled to the food handlers. Encourage the food handlers and the food premises that had good hygiene law violation by posted the green star clear at the front of the restaurant, because this kind of motivation, they let the food handlers to work hard while dealing with the food product. So finally, acknowledge to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to my professor, supervisor, Dr. Shafour, and special thanks to the international conference. They give me chance to do my presentation, and Dr. Ismail Belushi, Dr. Riyutha, Dr. Saif Al-Yaqoubi, Dr. Aman Al-Rawahi, and other doctors, also the public authorities. Special thanks to my family who always with me while dealing with my studies and published, and to my college. This is my references while I'm dealing with my papers. Thank you very much. That's all about my presentation, and I hope all of you, they got an idea about food safety. Thank you very much.